This is a weird video that went viral a few years ago. The video appears to be recorded in 2006 and is titled Real Angel Caught on Video. As we can see, there is a hunched, thin, skeleton-like creature in the last few seconds of the video. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but if you ask me, I will say it's inhumane to call that ugly thing an angel, even if it does exist. We tend to imagine angels to be someone elegant and holy, someone that's in a white robe and has pretty wings like swans, or someone that got a glittering halo on head or a cupid's sword on hand, like a cute baby. That ugly thing in the video, you call that an angel? To find out the truth, I looked up some information about angels. Turned out that the real angel looks like nothing from what we have in mind. In the Gospel of Luke chapter 1, the righteous priest Zechariah prayed to God for a child with his wife. Then one of the Lord's angels came and stood right before him, and he was terrified. The angel said to Zechariah, "Don't be afraid. Your prayer has been heard by God." In Luke chapter 2, on the night Jesus was born, the angel was trying to tell this to the shepherd who was sleeping in the wild. The shepherd was also very scared when he saw the angel. The angel then said to him, "Don't be afraid. I have come to tell you some good news. Your Savior has born." So, why is it that the first thing angels do is to tell people not to be afraid? The book of Revelation predicts that the Savior will save the world when the last judgment comes. But has it ever occurred to you that God could be the one who invented the judgment day, and that the angels who serve God would sound the trumpets for it? In this video we are going to figure out the truth about angels, as well as the last judgment, which is misunderstood by most people. The word angel comes from the Greek angelos, meaning a messenger, which is simply the messenger of God. In the early Middle Ages, a Middle Eastern scholar named Dionysius was obsessed with angels, and he wrote the book De Coelesti Hierarchia, which classifies the angels in the Bible into 3 hierarchies and 9 orders, of which the 3 are the highest, the middle, and the lowest hierarchies. The highest hierarchy is also called the divine class, the middle one is called the Son class, and the lowest one is called the Holy Spirit class. Angels of each hierarchy are divided into 3 orders. The angels of higher ranks always appear to be more creepy. One more thing we have to mention is that the 7 well-known archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Kamal, Raphael, Jafar, Sakir, actually belong to the lowest hierarchy, which is exactly why they are not so creepy. Today we're going to focus on the angels of the highest hierarchy, including Seraphim, Cherubim, and Ophanim. In the 6th chapter of the book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah saw a vision of the Lord. He saw the Lord sitting on a high throne, with his cloak filling the temple. Above the Lord stood seraphim, each with 6 wings, 2 to cover their faces, 2 to cover their feet, and 2 to fly. They were crying to each other, "Holy, holy, holy, Yahweh of armies, the whole earth is full of his glory." Seraphim are the blazing angels, also known as the 6-winged angels. They are spirits of pure light and thinking that can get in touch with God. All they have to do is to fly around God, singing hymns and praising him day and night. The red flame is the symbol of the seraph. Some churches in the Middle Ages believed that the seraph felt so much joy from fully understanding God's love, and it was the great joy that burned them. However, even though seraphim are considered as the most faithful servant of God in various religious texts, there are indeed several traitors among them, the most famous of which should be the fallen angel Lucifer. It is said that Lucifer refused to submit to Jesus, and he then led 1/3 of the angels to stand against Jesus in the northern part of heaven, making himself the greatest Satan in hell. Besides Isaiah, another prophet named Ezekiel also had the vision of the creepy appearance of angels. Ezekiel once had a vision by the Chebar River when he was 30. It was the same year that he was called to be a prophet. In the 1st chapter of the book of Ezekiel, it is written that a great wind came from the north. Then a great cloud of shining fire appeared, and there were 4 creatures right in the cloud. Apparently Ezekiel didn't know these were angels, so he mentioned them as living creatures. Each of these living creatures have 4 faces and 4 wings. They each have a front face of a man, a left face of an ox, a right face of a lion, and a back face of an eagle. They got hands of a man under their wings. They have straight legs, and their soles were like the hooves of an ox. The 4 living creatures connected to each other by wings, and they walk straight forward without turning around. These are actually the angels of wisdom, also known as cherubim. The most obvious physical feature of the cherubim is that it has 4 heads. There are 2 cherubim sitting right above the Ark of the Covenant, the holy relic of the Israelites. According to the book of Genesis, it was the cherubim who guarded the Garden of Eden and later drove Adam and Eve out of there. Besides the cherubim, Ezekiel also sees an ophim, which is probably the most creepy looking among all the angels. The first chapter of Ezekiel described an ophim as wheels intersecting wheels, and the color of the wheels is like beryl. The rim is covered with eyes, symbolizing the angel's ability to see everything. Ophanim usually appear with God, seraphim, and cherubim. They always follow God and other angels to anywhere they go, kinda like God's private car. Knowing what the angels look like, we can now understand why the first thing angels do is to tell people not to be afraid. However, compared with their creepy looking, what's more terrifying is that they act like devils in punishing humans. In Exodus chapter 12 of the Old Testament, it is said that on the night of the Passover, the Lord sent the angel of death to kill all the firstborn sons of Egypt in one night. Every single one of firstborn sons, including the prince of Egypt and the sons of prisoners. According to the chapter 24 of Samuel, the Lord commanded the death angel to send a plague to Israel, which lasted 3 days and killed 70,000 people. When the angel was about to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented and said,
"Stop. That's enough."
However, all those are far less destructive than what the angels do during the Last Judgment. The book of Revelation is the final book of the New Testament. It's written by John, and it describes the last day vision that John saw, predicting the future of mankind. One day, when John was staying on the island of Patmos, he suddenly heard someone calling his name. He turned and saw 7 golden lampstands, among which stood Jesus. He didn't look so kind like always. Instead, he seemed very intimidating. He was wearing a robe that hung down to his feet, and his eyes were like fire. He held 7 stars in his right hand, and a sharp double-edged sword emanated from his mouth. His face was shining like the sun. The double-edged sword that came out of Jesus' mouth was the one to attack and punish demons in the later judgment. Jesus told John to write to the 7 churches in Asia about the vision he had seen. John did as told, and he was then taken to heaven. After arriving in the heaven, he saw a throne surrounded by a rainbow, and from the throne came lightning and thunder. The God Jehovah was sitting in the throne. Around the throne were 24 seats, in which sat 24 elders. There were 4 living creatures standing before the Lord and the elders. One creature had the head of a lion, one had the head of a calf, one had the face of a man, and one was like an eagle flying. The 4 living creatures each had 6 wings, and they got eyes all over their body. They were singing day and night,
"Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was, who is, and who is to come."
Most church people considered the 4 living creatures as seraphs, because they had the 6 wings that are the hallmark of seraphs, and they kept on singing hymns. John also saw Jehovah holding in his right hand a scroll with writing on both the inside and the outside. The scroll was sealed with 7 seals. Then a lamb appeared before the throne with 7 horns and 7 eyes, covered in blood, as if it had just been killed. The lamb went up and took the scroll from God. This lamb actually symbolizes Jesus who was crucified, and Jesus is also known as the Lamb of the Lord. The lamb then opened the 7 seals on the scroll. When the first seal was opened, a white horseman appeared with a bow, representing the plague. When the second seal was opened, a white horseman appeared with a large sword, representing war. When the third seal was opened, a black horseman appeared with scales, representing famine. When the fourth seal was opened, a gray-green horseman appeared with nothing in hands, representing death. With the arrival of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, 1/4 of the people on earth were killed. Fortunately, there was no disaster with the opening of the 5th seal. John saw only the martyred souls under the altar crying out,
"Holy and true Lord, how long until you judge and bring justice to us?"
The Lord gave each of the martyrs a white robe, indicating that they would be admitted to heaven, and reassured them that they would have to wait a little longer until they killed enough martyrs. Yes, you heard me right. God hasn't started the last judgment because there haven't been enough martyrs. Then, disasters came again after the sixth seal was opened. There was an earthquake, the sun turned black, the moon turned blood, and the stars kept falling to the earth, as if the sky were splitting. Then the kings of the earth, the ministers, the generals, the powerful people and the slaves, hid in caves and among the rocks. After the seventh seal was opened, the disaster stopped and there was a half-hour silence in the sky. But that was not the end of the apocalypse. Something more destructive was yet to happen. John saw 7 angels appear in front of God. Each were given a trumpet. When the first angel sounded the trumpet, fire mixed with hail was thrown down to the earth, burning a third of the earth. When the second angel sounded the trumpet, a third of the sea was filled with blood, destroying a third of the life and a third of the ships in the sea. When the third angel sounded the trumpet, a burning star called a wormwood fell from the sky, changing a third of the rivers and other water sources into wormwood, and many people died of water pollution. When the fourth angel sounded the trumpet, a third of the sun, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars were destroyed. A third of the daytime had no light, and a third of the night had no stars. When the fifth angel sounded the trumpet, an abyss in the earth was opened. Then out of the abyss came black smoke and a great number of locusts. These locusts had long human hair, and their teeth were as sharp as lions. They got breastplates of iron, and their wings sounded like chariots. They also had tails and stings like scorpions. The locusts were ordered to torture humans for 5 full months, but they were not allowed to harm the vegetation or the followers of God whose foreheads were marked by God. When the sixth angel sounded the trumpet, the 4 messengers bound in the Euphrates River were set free. These 4 messengers were prepared for the disaster at this moment, and they would kill a third of the human beings on the earth. Remember when the 4 horsemen just showed up and wiped out 1/4 of the earth's population? Coupled with death caused by the 4 messengers, more than half the human beings got killed. Now I am a little confused. Why angels seem to kill more humans than the devil? When the 7th angel sounded the trumpet, the disaster stopped for a while. The 24 elders fell upon their faces and worshipped God. A great voice came from heaven, saying,
"The kingdom of the world has come, the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever."
Then appeared a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars upon her head. The woman was pregnant and cried out in the pains of childbirth. Her crying attracted a fiery red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. The dragon was waiting to eat the woman's baby after she gave birth. This woman was in fact the Virgin Mary, and the child she was carrying was Jesus Christ. As soon as the woman gave birth, the child was taken to God. The woman then fled into a desert where she had a safe place prepared by God. Then the archangel Michael defeated the dragon. The dragon actually symbolizes the fallen angel Lucifer. The dragon then fell from the sky, but before he died, he gave his power, throne and great authority to a beast in the sea. The beast looks like a leopard, but it has 7 heads and a mouth of a lion. One of his 7 heads was mortally wounded, but it was then miraculously healed. And the people on the earth found that pretty amazing. They used to worship the dragon. Now that the dragon gave his power to the beast, they started to worship the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with it?" At the same time, a beast appeared on the ground, and that's a lamb that looks like God. But if you look carefully, you will find that this lamb has only 2 horns and speaks like a dragon. It symbolized a fake Christ and it kept on desecrating God, persuading people to believe in the beast of the sea. Those who followed the fake Christ and the beast of the sea were marked with 666 on their right hand or forehead. As more and more people followed the devil, God got increasingly angry. Like we just mentioned, the humans had suffered from the disasters caused by the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets, and now the 7 golden bowls would bring them more pains. The 4 living creatures before God, the 4 seraphs, gave to the 7 lower angels 7 golden bowls filled with the wrath of God, representing 7 kinds of disasters. The first golden bowl was poured out on the earth, and sores began to come on those with the mark of the beast on their right hands or foreheads. The second golden bowl was poured out into the sea, and all creatures in the sea died. The third golden bowl was poured out into the rivers, then all the water turned into blood. The fourth golden bowl was poured to the sun, and the sun began to burn humans on with fire. The fifth angel poured out the golden bowl in the throne of the beast, and the kingdom ruled by the beast became dark, and its worshippers were in so much pain that they even bite off their own tongues. The sixth angel poured the golden bowl in the Euphrates River, and the river dried up. Then, all the kings on the earth were summoned to a place called Armageddon, where the final battle between the good and the evil would take place. The seventh golden bowl was poured out into the air, then it came the largest earthquake, causing all the cities to collapse, and all the islands and mountains to disappear. Large hailstones weighing 40 kilograms fell down on people. Then one of the 7 angels who had bowls came to John and said,
"Come, I will show you the judgment of the great whore who sits on many waters."
Many waters here refers to the doctrine of the devil. As for the great whore, some biblical scholars believed that it symbolizes the Roman Empire, which persecuted Christians, but some others believed that the great whore refers to other religions that based on a variety of satanic doctrines, which allowed their followers to worship idols, promote temple prostitutes, indulge in alcohol, follow fake gods, do something extremely obscene, and even to make human sacrifices. According to the Book of Revelation, the great whore has a mysterious name, Babylon the Great, written on her forehead. John saw an angel come down from heaven, crying with a big voice,
"Fallen! Babylon the Great has fallen!
Then another voice came from heaven, saying,
She will be burned in fire, for who judges her is mighty."
About the human kings who had been in the lust with the great whore. When they saw her being burned, they cried in great pains and said,
"Woe! Woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon! In 1 hour your doom has come!"
The city of Babylon here actually refers to the city of Rome. Revelation 18 describes the end of Babylon like this. A powerful angel took a stone like the millstone and threw it into the sea, saying,
"Just like this, the great city Babylon will be thrown down with violence and will never be found again."
This actually shows the attitude of Christians towards the Roman Empire at the time. Then, in Revelation 19, Jesus Christ appeared on a white horse. His eyes were like fire, and he got many crowns on his head. Then out of his mouth came a sharp sword. He looks exactly the same as what John saw in Revelation chapter 1. Jesus struck the nations with the sharp sword in his mouth. The army of the beast got defeated completely, and the demon king Satan was locked in a bottomless pit and bound for 1,000 years. Jesus resurrected those who were martyred and those who didn't have a beast mark on their heads or hands. During these 1,000 years, Jesus Christ made people a happy and peaceful life. It was a quick 1,000 years, and Satan was about to get released from his imprisonment. The last judgment finally came. Together with the sea beast, the fake Christ and the false prophets were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with sulfur, where they were going to be tormented day and night forever. The dead rose from the sea and the grave, and lined up before the throne of God for judgment. The basis of God's judgment is the Book of Life, which record each human's behaviors before life and determines their future after the judgment. The climax of the Book of Revelation comes at the end, in chapters 21 and 22. After the judgment, those who have done good and believed in the Lord stepped into a brand new world. They were taken to New Jerusalem, the new holy city. No one unclean is allowed to go there, nor anyone who has done abominations and falsehoods. It only accepts those whose names are recorded by the Lamb in the Book of Life. It is a cubic building of 2,200 kilometers long, wide, and high. The cornerstones of the walls are decorated with various precious stones, and inside the city there is a river called the Water of Life, the water of which is as bright as crystal. The source of the river is the throne of God and the Lamb. On both sides of the river are trees of life. These trees grow different fruits every month, and the leaves on them could heal all humans. There will be no more birth, death, illness or darkness in the city, nor will there be any need for lights, because the light of God will shine on the whole city forever and ever. That's the whole book of Revelation. Although it has a happy ending, I am wondering if you have any doubts after knowing all these. Why the angels in the Bible seem so terrifying? Why is 666 the mark of the beast? And why does the number 7 keeps appearing, such as the 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 golden bowls, and 7 heads of the fiery dragon and the beast of the sea? Next, let's go beyond the Christian perspective and try to restore the truth of the Last Judgment from a historical and literary perspective. Many people say that the book of Revelation is the most confusing part of the New Testament because it writes many kinds of strange visions, such as the lamb, the whore, the dragon, the beast of the sea, and the beast of the earth. To figure out the specific meaning behind these visions, first we need to know the background when the book of Revelation was written. There are 2 main theories as to when the book of Revelation was written. One believed that it was written around 68 to 69 AD, during the first persecution of Christians under the reign of the Roman Emperor Nero, and the other considered that it was written around 94 to 96 AD, during the second persecution of Christianity at the end of the reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian. We have no idea which one is true, but it should be the fact that Christians had a pretty difficult time during the Roman Empire. Christianity originated in Palestine under the Roman Empire in the 1st century. As an oppressed religion, it suffered a lot to spread in the Roman Empire in the first 3 centuries. During the 250 years, from the first public persecution of Christians by Emperor Nero in 64 AD, to the Edict of Milan by Constantine the Great in 313 AD, which announced Christianity to be legal, Christians suffered many large official persecutions by Rome, as well as numerous bullying, insults and discrimination by the general people of Rome. Tertullianus was a theologian of the 2nd century, and he once said that
the blood of Christian martyrs became the seed of the church.
It's probably not entirely true, but it still tells us the situation in the era of great persecution. In the beginning, the believers of Christianity were mostly Jews who lived in the Roman Empire. At that time, ordinary Romans considered Christianity a foolish superstition from the East, and many Romans confused Christianity with Judaism. The Roman Empire in the 1st century was a vast and culturally mixed place, attracting many kinds of strange religions to come with huge material wealth. As the Romans were always utilitarian back then, these foreign religions were free to do anything, as long as they didn't hurt the rule of the Roman Empire or the material interests of the Romans. But soon the Romans started to dislike the rituals practiced by Christians, such as gathering for prayer and taking communion. Besides, the Christians worship only the Lord, but not the gods that the emperors and people of Rome revered for generations, which caused them a great conflict with the traditional ideas of the Romans. To the Romans who were addicted to material pleasures, Christians were totally crazy and anti-human. They wanted a clean and self-disciplined life, and they believed in a person who was crucified by the Romans. They were full of hatred and loathing for the society, and they longed for a life that didn't even exist. In 64 AD, a terrible fire broke out in the city of Rome. It lasted for 6 days and affected 10 of the 14 districts of the city, 3 of which were completely burned down. The official record said it was an accident, but it has long been said that the tyrant Nero set the fire just to build a new palace on the ruins. Nero didn't want to be responsible for that, so he blamed it on the Christians who were already disgusted by the Romans, and he then carried out cruel persecution of Christians. It was during that persecution that the Apostle Peter and the Apostle Paul were killed. The Roman emperors after Nero basically had a negative attitude towards Christianity. The Roman Emperor Domitian came to the throne in 81 AD, and he was especially tough on the Christians. At the end of his reign, he claimed himself to be God, and he made his own statues with gold and silver. Then he placed them all over the city of Rome, making people to worship him and call him our Lord and our God. The Christians sure refused to do that, and Domitian then ordered a massive raid on the Christians, confiscating their property, and even putting them to death. Between 250 and 260 AD, in order to protect the declining Roman Empire and the traditional religion, the then Roman emperors Decius and Valerian began to kill the growing Christian church, leading to the climax of the persecution of Christians. They tried to force Christians to submit to Roman polytheism by torture, prison, and intimidation. They also forbade Christians to gather. A large number of clergy members were executed, and ordinary believers were humiliated, exiled, and confiscated of property. This persecution lasted for 10 years, until the Emperor Valerian was captured by the Persians in the Battle of 260 AD. The Roman Empire then became a state of division and chaos, and the emperor became a puppet of mercenary generals. Therefore, the Roman rulers were no longer able to persecute Christians. Christianity had a 40-year break, during which they kept on growing and spreading to the military, the government, and the aristocracy. In the early 4th century, the Roman Emperor Diocletian carried out the last mass persecution of Christianity. He issued 4 edicts, including demolishing churches, burning scriptures, forcing clergies to sacrifice by torture, and driving Christians out of the army and court. However, at this time, Christianity had already been well received and had won sympathy among the Roman people and the upper class. Therefore, Diocletian's persecution policy didn't last long. In 305 AD, Diocletian retired from Roman politics, and the miserable days of Christian finally came to an end. 8 years later, Constantine the Great issued the famous Edict of Milan, also known as the Edict of Toleration, which recognized Christianity as a legitimate religion and returned church property confiscated under Diocletian. In 380 AD, another Roman emperor, Theodosius the Great, established Christianity as the state religion of Rome. Since then, Christianity began to merge with the imperial regime. After knowing the early days of the development of Christianity, we can say that it's very much of a history of martyrdom. Although the Roman Catholic Church became more and more domineering and intolerant after it became the supreme authority in the Middle Ages, Christianity did go along and touch way under the brutal suppression of the Roman Empire. That's why Lord said in Revelation 6 that he hadn't started the judgment because there were not yet enough martyrs. This kind of martyrdom was exactly what the early Christianity wanted. The reason why angels in Bible were described to be so terrifying was that early Christians wanted angels to be a certain deterrent. But Christianity later became the largest religion in the region, and angels started to be kind by the Renaissance as they no longer need to frighten people with terrifying appearance. Instead, they always appeared to people with white wings and a gentle face. Speaking of the Book of Revelation, Dale Martin, an American biblical scholar and religious history professor at Yale University, believes that we should view this book as a literary work. Its literary genre was the Revelation literature that was once very popular. This kind of literature often begins with a dream in which the author says he has seen various visions and then imply to similar things happening in real life. There are many books of Revelation literature, such as the Book of Daniel in the Old Testament of the Bible, and the long poem, The Divine Comedy, written by the Italian poet Dante in the Middle Ages. But of course, the most classic one is the Book of Revelation. According to Professor Dale Martin, Revelation is difficult to read because it was not written in a clear timeline, but instead in a circular structure of a spiral. Disasters and crises go together like matryoshkas, and when there is too much anxiety to take, it is suddenly released and then comes another round. For example, when the Lamb opened the 7 seals, the first 4 seals brought the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. 1/4 of humans got killed just like that. The 5th seal gave humans a break from the disasters, and God soothed the souls of the martyrs under the altar. But the disasters came again after the 6th seal was opened. The 7th seal gave humans another break, and there was half an hour of silence in the sky. Then the 7 trumpets came with another round of strike. After the 7 trumpets, it came 7 golden bowls, once again bringing humans into tension and anxiety. In the end, God won in the final battle and then started the last judgment, bringing the evil ones to the hell and the good ones to heaven. This kind of structure ensures that the tension is lasting but not overwhelming. So the question is, what are John's intentions to write the Book of Revelation like this? Dale Martin's teacher, the American theologian, Adela Collins, wrote in her book Crisis and Catharsis that the Book of Revelation might have affected 2 kinds of people. One may have a good life under the Roman Empire, but then started to doubt the brutal empire after reading the disasters in the book. The other kind of people are the miserable ones in the lower class that were oppressed, ostracized, and discriminated. And the beautiful holy city in the end of the book will comfort them, encourage them, and help them to hold on to their faith. In short, no matter whether you were living well or not under the Roman Empire, you would feel something after reading this book. This is what makes the book amazing. According to Professor Dale Martin, the book of Revelation is full of Christian discontent with the evil Roman rulers of the time. The number 7 keeps appearing because Rome is also known as the city of 7 hills. In Revelation chapter 12, the fiery dragon that tried to eat the newborn son Jesus has 7 heads, and the beast of the sea in chapter 13 also had 7 heads. In chapter 17, the crimson beast that the great whore was riding had 7 heads too. It's fair enough to say that all the villains in this book are more or less related to the number 7, which clearly implying that the villains are the Roman Empire. In addition, according to Professor Dale Martin's explanation, the beast mark 666 actually refers to the name of the Roman Emperor Nero. If we write Nero's name in Hebrew letters and add up the numbers corresponding to each letter, the total is 666. The Revelation was written so cryptically just to avoid the literary inquisition of the Roman Empire. There are sure different opinions on that, like some people believe that the repeated number 7 represents the 7 Roman emperors who ever persecuted Christians. Now some people even consider the mark 666 refers the human chip. Just like the old saying goes, there are 1,000 Hamlets in 1,000 people's eyes. In general, the book of Revelation is not so much a book of prophecy as the cry of the oppressed Christians of that time. In real life, they had no chance of winning in fighting against the powerful Roman Empire, so they could only hope for the last judgment, hoping that one day God would punish evil and praise good, as well as overthrowing the old system and establishing a great society with new orders. This is why doomsday predictions always become popular in times of social unrest. Alright, that's all for the story of today. See you in the next video.